Alrighty, welcome back to That's Just My Opinion. I am Merlin, and today we will be discussing The Rage of Dragons, Book 1 of The Burning by Evan Winters. Okay, so I had this book recommended to me by a couple people who really loved high fantasy and also really liked the Stormlight Archive series. So I have finally gotten around to listening to it, and oh boy. Yeah. So to start out, we start out with a prologue with our two main characters in this prologue being Sayori and Tifa. You find out pretty quickly that Tifa is the queen of these people that have just landed on this shore and are trying to invade. Sayori is her champion, also her lover, confidant, basically husband for all intensive purposes. And they are trying to take this beach that they sailed, they were running from something. Their people fled and they followed dragons to this island. And they are trying to get a foothold and beat back the natives. It's not going well. It's not going well at all. You start learning a little bit about the magic of this world, that there are women who are called gifted who can perform special different kinds of magic. So you see a little bit of the magic that's going on there, mostly Enervation, I believe, is the one, which is like can knock out a whole bunch of people, and Enraging, which is certain warriors, I believe they're called Ingonyamas, that if a gifted targets them, they can enrage them, which is basically hulking them out. They become bigger, stronger, tougher, yeah. So we're watching these battles going on and they're losing. So they know they're losing. So Tifa comes up with a plan to call a dragon down, which her counselors aren't cool with. They're like, don't do that. She's like, don't worry, I won't do it too long to bring the call. The call is something really bad. So she does, Sayori ends up dying in the battle, which is very sad. And then Tifa brings down this dragon, absolutely wrecks the native people. I mean, just wrecks them with this dragon because she's able to like mind meld, control it. You see the carnage after the battle. Tifa's walking through with that. She resolves herself that she will become a monster. That's what it takes to protect her people, herself, and her unborn child. You find out that she's pregnant with Sayori's child, so she will do what she has to do to protect her people. Cut to 180 years in the future with our main character, Tao, getting his butt kicked in sword fighting. Tao is the son of Eren. Eren is, I believe he is, what is the word? Oh god, I can't remember what the word they use in the book is. Make him to me later. But he is basically a captain of the guards for these nobles. Important thing to know about this world, it operates in a caste system. So for those of you who aren't aware of the difference between a class system and a caste system, class, you know, you can move up and down in class depending on what your financial status is for the most part. Caste, you're locked into that. So if you are born lower, even if you marry someone super high up like a royal, or if you make it big and whatever, doesn't matter, you are stuck in your caste. So important thing to note is that Eren is a low caste, like he's a low common, which is basically one level above what they call drudge, which are their slaves. Tao is actually high common because his mother was high common. Depends on who your mother was, determines what your ranking in society is. So Tao is a high common. His dad is kind of this captain of the guards who is training the second son of the local nobles to be a great warrior. So there's some politics with the family that the second son, Jabari, he really needs to perform well as a warrior because both his dad and his brother kind of washed out of the military. So if he doesn't become a great warrior, then his family will face huge taxes. That's something you find out pretty quickly in his world. All men have to serve in the military. If you don't make it into the Isikolo, which is the low-born like soldiers regiment, I don't remember what the highborn is, but they basically both have their own military forces. If as a lesser as they're called, if you don't make it into the army, you can become basically a guard. It's about the best you can do. Or if, say, you don't want to do that, or for whatever reason you don't do that, then you become a drudge, which is basically a slave. So Tao is staring down the barrel of going to his testing to join the Isokolo. His dad is very hard on him of wanting him to join because it's basically the only chance he has at a really good, at a decent life. The problem with this that you find out is that you get 1 year of training and then you have to serve 6 years on the front lines. Your odds of making it back from those 6 years? Not great. You also find out that Tao, he and Jabari, they're kind of friends, but there's still that pretty hard class or caste divide between them, given that Jabari is a petty noble, which is like the lowest ranking of nobles, and Tao is a common. So yeah, there's still that divide between them, even though they're kind of friends. You also find out that Tao's got a thing for a girl named Zuri, who's a handmaiden in the castle. You know, he's got feels for her. It's very sweet. So yeah, you kind of get the setup between Eren trying to push Tao to be a good fighter, to be a good swordsman, so he can get into the Isokolo and actually get a chance of surviving and being a good soldier. So, you know, we get our first raid by, there ends up being a raid on the village. This is their first big action set piece of the Hedeni, which are the natives of, I believe the continent is called Zira. So they're the natives and they raid Daba, which is the city that Tao lives in. We see our first bit of action, a bit of fighting. Some interesting things about the Hedeni is they call them curse marks. They say that the goddess, who is their goddess, cursed them. Also that she struck the Hedena down, taking away all of their magic. We'll see about that. And that they have these curse scars, which are like these like sores all over their bodies. So Tao ends up getting wrapped into the middle of this fight with Jabari. He ends up killing a Hedena warrior woman, because you find out the Hedena, they're gender equal when it comes to their warriors. Women and men both fight for them. Tao makes it through, but not without some of the Ingonyamas and a gifted woman showing up and hitting everybody with some enervation, which Tao gets caught in the splash for that and gets knocked into, oh god, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at remembering the names for this, but it's the underworld. Unlaba, that's what it is, Unlaba. He gets knocked into the underworld where he sees a demon for the first time. It's like this terrifying, nightmare-fueled monster that's coming at him, but Eren pulls him out of the way of the enervation and pulls him back. Yeah, so that was our first look into the underworld. Not a fun place. That's where people go when they get enervated. So, important thing to note for this culture, only women are gifted, but in the prologue we did see a man who was channeling the powers of Unlaba, which, important note to remember for the future. So the battle happens, Tao deals with PTSD after the fact because, yeah, he definitely would. Tao goes through his ceremony of becoming a man where he gets drunk off his ass. Zuri has to take him home and he tells her how beautiful he is and he almost throws up on her. It's cute. Then we get to the first big hurdle of the book, which is Jabari is going to go do his testing to see if he can get into the upper class army. So they go do that, and while they're doing that, Jabari's dickhead older brother is like, he's an absolute ass, is like, oh yes, brother, train with this other lord. You have your pet commoner, have him train with him. And so Tao is fighting this other noble who is, one, using an edged blade against Tao, and Tao's just like, dude. And this noble is like literally trying to kill Tao, and Tao is just trying to defend himself, and he ends up hitting this noble and knocking this noble on his ass. And you're just like, and everyone just starts freaking out, and it's just like demands Tao's head, that Tao be hung because he struck someone who's higher caste than him, even though he was just defending himself. Yay, caste systems, aren't they fun? So there is this other dickhead royal, I believe he's a royal noble, which is like the highest you can get, that he's there, Obasi Odili, who orders that Tao be killed by one of his guards he has. He's also still an initiate for the army, but he is a greater noble. His name is Kellen Okar, and Kellen is like one of the best swordsmen to come out, best fighters they've had in generations. Like, people are eyeing him pretty hard that, you know, this dude's gotta be somebody, and Odili is sponsoring him. So Odili tells Kellen, you know, go kill this lesser. And Kellen is begrudgingly going to go do it, but Eren throws himself into the fight for Tao, taking his place, and Kellen ends up chopping off Eren's hand. So he's going to leave it at that. Eren is maimed, but Kellen is going to walk away from the fight, saying he's taken everything from Eren that made him a man. Well, of course, Tao charges into the circle to try and defend his father, so Odili sends his personal body, which is basically someone who, if you do basically trial by combat exists in this world, or like duels over insults, you know, your typical, you have insulted my honor, fight me to the death for it. The highest nobles can afford bodies, which are basically people who stand in and do that thing for them. So he sends in his body, he kills Eren, and Tao is devastated. Obviously, he was very close with his father. His father dies in his arms, and this begins Tao's downhill slide into revenge. So they go home, you know, Tao's not in a good place, and Jabari's dickhead older brother starts kind of taunting the point of like, well, he was just a lesser, it doesn't matter, you know, they're a dime a dozen, so Tao loses it and punches him rightly in the face, which he deserved, but that obviously, dickhead older brother starts calling for Tao's head. Well, Jabari tries to do him a solid and tells him he's just exiled, that he's banished, that he needs to get out. But Tao, upon getting back to his hut, decides that he's going to leave, that he is going to start down this path of revenge. He's going to get into the Isokolo. He's going to train, because once you're in the military, anybody who holds military status, you can challenge to one of those duels. So that's his goal, is he wants to challenge these guys to the duels through the military so he can kill them and not get hung for it. It's basically the only way you could kill a noble and not be murdered for it. So that's his plan. Zuri shows up. She tells him, let's run away together. They won't find us, because you find out that Zuri was also gone through her testing as a woman to test if she's gifted. Guess what? The girl's gifted, which basically now ranks her as one down from royalty. That is how high-ranking gifted are, because they are extremely rare. Like 1 in 10,000 women is gifted. So Tao is like, yeah, I've lost her now too. Lets her go, is going to go on his path for revenge. But not first without dropping in on Mr. Dickhead to say, hi, I am going to get my revenge on you. I am going to wait. I want you to know I'm coming for you. Someday, you don't know when, someday I will take you down. Yeah, but Dickhead's got a knife on him. He slices Tao across the face, giving him this really bad cut. Tao ends up killing him by bashing his head in, and then one of the guards comes in, who's a really good friend of Aren's and Tao's, and does Tao a solid by making it look like the dickhead's death was an accident, and Tao is able to escape and go to the south to train and join the Isokolo. So now we get into training. You find out that there is 3 days of training. You have, you basically, if you win 10 matches in the first 2 days, you're guaranteed a spot in the Isokolo. Otherwise, you have to make it to the 3rd day, and then that's when like all of the different like trainers of the Isokolo show up, and they like scout out who they want. So Tao's goal is to obviously get 10 wins. He starts fighting and he realizes it's impossible to get these 10 wins, but he makes it through the first day. He's into the 2nd day, he's fighting, you know, he's doing the best he can. He goes up against this guy, this huge dude, basically the biggest lesser Tao has ever seen. His name is Uduak, I believe is his name. They also call him the big guy. Uduak says that Tao is his 9th fight, and that once he beats, or his 10th fight, once he beats Tao, he will, you know, go on to join the Isokolo. Tao ends up holding him off because it's basically a 200 count that they have to fight. 200 breaths is how they count it. And of course, Tao ends up just barely holding on against Uduak during the fight. He has got like a broken arm and everything. He wakes up in basically an infirmary with Uduak and this other guy named Hadith, who Hadith is governor class, which is the highest ranking of lesser you can get. They basically run the bureaucracy, who tells him, congrats, you lived. One of the scouts, basically the best fighter that there is, who's the highest rank, the lesser, that is like admired by all because he actually made it onto the Guardian Council, which is of course one of the big ruling bodies, but then they kicked him off for political reasons because, you know, he's a lesser. So Hadith tells him, yeah, Jayed likes you. Congrats. And he told Uduak that if you die, he's out. So Uduak's been mothering you while you've been unconscious. So Tao's sword arm is broken. They meet the rest of what will become Scaled Jayed, and they head off to train. This begins our training montages of Tao learning to fight first left-handed, because, you know, he's got a busted right arm, and Jayed's like, well, the goddess gave you 2 arms. Learn to fight with your other one. You also find out that Jayed is trying to create a new breed of soldier. He thinks the way they're training, the lessers especially, isn't effective, because the lessers only get 1 year of training where the nobles get 3 years training. Just right there. So Jayed's goal is to get them trained not in like sword forms and like really strict training, but like focus your strengths, learn how you fight the best and just optimize that. Put in your time, become the best fighter you can be. And of course, Tao starts putting in the hours, he starts doing the work, he starts training harder than everybody else. They train and they train and they train. Eventually they get to the point where they're trying to figure out their styles. Tao doesn't like fighting with a shield, and at that point he doesn't like fighting with a 2-handed sword. So of course I'm like, dude, dual wielder, get the 2 swords. Of course he ends up with the 2 swords. He's a dual wielder, he's fighting as hard as he can. Yeah, and then they go to their first skirmish, which is basically where they put up half a unit of the nobles against a full unit of lessers and have them fight it out in these mock battles. Well, the first time they do that, Tao really sees how the odds are stacked against them, and he ends up confronting Jayed about it, of like, you know, you said lessers could fight against nobles, you lied. And you find out that Tao was kind of the exception to what Jayed was looking for. Because something you find out from Jayed is that the castes obviously don't mix, especially lesser and nobles. Well, you find out that Jayed himself is a child of a cross caste rape, sorry for lack of a better term, that he actually survived. Everyone is told that these cross-caste children die in infancy or are stillborn. Well, not so much, and everybody else in Scaled Jayed is these cross-caste kids. So Tao gets a little pissed off about that, because, you know, it's not about making lessers, it's about making these cross-caste and proving that there's a place for them, which I'm like, you know, it's not great, but that is a step in the right direction for this society of getting rid of the caste. So Tao's a little mad, but whatever, he has to deal with it. He's still fighting. He ends up meeting Zuri again. She is gifted. She starts telling him a little bit more about the mysticism side of things, about Unlaba and all of the magic side of things. Well, and that's where you learn that Tao and everybody can access the underworld whenever they want. And the thing is if you draw power from there, 1, that makes you light up like a Christmas tree, and makes the demons draw to you, and if you draw power, you're physically there, and the demons can like shred you and actually kill you. It happens to people sometimes, it's called demon death. The reason gifted don't get that is they have the ability to shroud themselves. They can hide themselves from the demons for a time. So that's why they're super important, because that's how they can get their magic. So Tao also learns that time works differently in the underworld than it does in real life. That, you know, a minute in our world could feel like an hour there. So Tao is lamenting that he needs more time, he needs more hours in the day. Where's he gonna get that? Yep, dude literally starts sending himself to hell to fight demons. Well, it works. Literally puts himself through hell and becomes the greatest fighter there is. And all this while, Scaled Jayed is forging themselves into this great team. They're going to more skirmishes, and they looks like they've got a chance at the Queen's Melee, which is like the top 6 teams, top 6 scales out of all of the training schools, a noble and lesser, compete in a competition to make it, and, you know, best scale, you know, obviously big props. So they look like they've actually got a chance, a real shot of making it into the Queen's Melee, which is huge. Tao is also super duper into this idea because, of course, Kellen is going to be there. His scale is like a shoo-in to make it in. So if he makes it in there, Tao's got a shot at Kellen. If he's got a shot at Kellen, well, accidents happen. Things happen in the Melee. People die every year. Tragic end. So yeah, that's Tao's plan. They end up getting into the Melee. It's, one more important thing before the Melee happens is that Tao gets to overhear, because Abbasio Dilly shows up at the compound, and Tao has the tendency to lose focus on his plans when something pops up in his face. So Odili shows up and he's like, great, I'm gonna go kill him. And I'm like, dude, if you're caught. So he ends up following Odili and Jayed out of the training center into the mountains where they meet with the Hedeni. Not great. They meet with this warlord. They talk about how they're suing for peace and that the queen needs to meet with her high council and she'll convince them that, this is what they want. She will marry this warlord who is not pro-peace, marry his son, and, they will have peace in exchange for sending the dragons away and also teaching their magics to the Hedeni. So they send one of their gifted to train with them. You find out this is Jayed's daughter. Yeah, she is, it's rough for Jayed. So she goes with them. All right. And the queen has agreed to marry this warlord's son, and the warlord's kid goes back with them. I think his name's Kana. So yeah, he goes with them. Okay, now we're caught up for the Melee. Melee goes down. They end up winning their first round because, of course, they're underestimated. They're lessers. Of course, they can't win because they're lessers, but they end up winning and making it to round 2. Round 2 comes around, and this is where you see our boy Hadith, who has become the undefeated strategist of Scale Jayed. He is a brilliant strategist, and he comes up with this batshit crazy plan of how they're gonna win their second day. He asks Tao to agree because it's super dangerous, but Tao agrees. Because of course, it's Tao. So they agree that he goes and basically goes, okay, hey guys, can we talk for a minute? And the captain of the other scale comes up and he's like, okay, so, hey, we could batter at each other, kill a bunch of our men, because the thing with the Melee, every guy you lose, you can't replace. So you only go into your next fight with the number of soldiers that you had at the end of your last one. So losing men is incredibly bad. So he's like, hey, so, we could battle each other, lose men, but, if you're going to go up against Kellen Okar and his dudes, you're going to want as many men as you can. So I suggest we put up your best against my best, and we'll see what happens. Of course, this captain ends up agreeing to it, and of course, he has too much pride to send who might actually be his best fighter in, where Hadith is like, Tao, do your thing. So Tao comes up, and he just thoroughly stomps this guy. I mean, it is hardly even a contest. But they win. They're through to day 3, and guess what? They draw Kellen's group. So here they go. They're on it. They fight. It's a slaughter. Okar is ready for them, and he is just picking them off. But it gets down to a point where there's like a few of them left hiding, trying to come up with a strategy. Hadith is working overtime trying to come up with a plan. But then Kellen is just like, Lessa, or the Common of Kerim, they're calling him now. He's, come out, face me, fight me. So of course, what does Tao do? He comes out to fight Kellen. And they lose. Well, no, actually, I don't think they lose. Or do they lose? Yeah, they lose. They lose that Melee. And people are pretty pissed at Tao because, dude, you threw it away for all of us. We could have changed things if we won, but you threw it all away. So they end up losing. That night, though, there is the sound of horns going off. The Hedeni are attacking in force. Full-blown battle. All the initiates. Sorry, guys, you're graduating early. Let's go. So they go out, they fight. This puts Kellen and Tao in the situation where they actually are fighting together, fighting back to back, trying to save each other, because you have found out that Zuri is actually Kellen's gifted now. She is in charge of enraging him, so there's also another reason for Tao to keep Kellen alive, because Zuri is with him. And Zuri and everyone else keeps telling him that, Kellen's a good guy. That, he's a good guy. maybe you shouldn't blame him for what happened, just blame Odili, but Tao's kind of got tunnel vision on that. So they end up working together, they end up getting out of the fight, things aren't going well, they're losing, and they also put it together that this is not just an invasion, it's a freaking coup. That Odili and the Kaid, she's like the head of the Gifted, plotted against the queen because the queen was going to surrender, and part of the surrender is also that the Chosen, as they're called, that's what these people call themselves, are going to give up their caste system, which obviously the royals and the nobles don't like. So they are pulling a coup against the queen. Part of the reason they sent Jayed's daughter there was that when she was trapped with the Hedeni, she called down a dragon on them and burned like 100,000 of them at once. So this invasion is retaliation. They also planned it because all of basically the military force that wouldn't be on the front lines would be in one location, so it was the best way they could possibly pull this coup off. So we've got Scale, Jayed, and Kellen's group going back to the city, figuring out it's a coup, and going to try to stop it and save the queen, because you find out that Kellen kind of has a thing for the queen, especially because he's got good odds of becoming her next champion, which is basically her lover and husband for all intents and purposes, so he really wants that job. So they make it in, they end up taking out Odili's guards, who are trying to get them to go just back to the barracks, pretty much. Kellen's like, let's go save the queen. His whole scale is like, yeah, not our problem, not our fight, peace. So yeah, those nobles do a great job, but you find out that Jabadi is actually in Kellen's group, so Jabadi comes with them too. So it's Scale Jayed with two nobles and a Gifted going to save the queen. So that's where we're at. They go, they end up breaking in, they're doing their thing, they go and they fight their way to the queen. They're making it there. Her current champion, who is also Kellen's uncle, tells Kellen, go, save the queen, she's over there. And Kellen goes to Tao, Tao, go. And Tao's like, what? He's like, my uncle only told me because he thinks I'm the best fighter. You're the best fighter, go. So Tao and Jabari go. Odili is there. His body is there. His body is fully enraged by the Kaid. And of course, Tao fights him. He's fighting a full enraged Ingonyama and he kills him. Oh my god, so satisfying. When his body dies, Odili freaking hightails it. He's like, this dude is crazy, bye! So they peace out, they save the queen. But they still got soldiers battering down the gates. They haven't made it in yet, but it's getting tight. So the queen, she goes up on to the battlements, she rallies her soldiers, she does what queens do, and then you see freaking Zuri brings out, they've got a youngling dragon trapped under there. Girl busts out with a freaking dragon, controlling it. But you find out when they control a dragon, they have to control it with a group of women because it will kill one of them. Well, Tao's of course like, oh god, oh no, she's controlling it by herself, she's going to die. So what does he do? Boy drops in to the underworld to try to save her. He draws power. He's trying to pull all the demons off Zuri. The queen pops up into the underworld because you've heard that the queens have lost their power, but they actually haven't. So the queen, pops him out of the underworld, and then it finds out that because it took long enough that the dragon let go of Zuri's out, it looks like it's gonna be okay, but there's some guys running to the gate because they gotta stop Odili and his men from getting out, and so the dragon swings around, it's gonna breathe fire and kill everybody, but Zuri, she stops it, she grabs a hold of the dragon, but it's too soon, her powers haven't fully regenerated, the dragon swings around and barbecues her. Absolutely fries her into nothing but ash. And Tao is devastated. The warlord and his cronies show up outside because they've got Kana there. They basically negotiate a month of peace in exchange for Kana's life. Kana tells the queen, Sayori, don't give up on peace, I'll talk to my father. So we now have a month of peace before the Hedeni kick back up with a full invasion force to completely genocide, wipe out the Chosen on this peninsula. End of the book is Sayori, the queen, going to Tao and presenting him with two dragon scale blades, and dragon scale is the strongest blade there can be. This is like Valyrian steel in this world if you have watched or read Game of Thrones. She presents him with these 2 blades and asks him if he will be her champion and kill the traitor Obasi Odili. And what do you think Tao says but yes? Dude is in a dark place after Zuri died, but now he is on the warpath. We've got a month, and let's go. So, this book was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I will say it's a little slow on the start. Like, the first quarter of the book is a lot of setting things up. It's a little slow. I was a little like, when is this gonna take off? But then when it gets going, whew, so good. So I fully recommend this book. As far as the characters go, I really like Tao because Tao's thing is he's not, like, especially at the beginning, he's not the best fighter. He's far from the best. It's literally because the dude puts himself through hell that he becomes the greatest fighter there is. I mean, wow. It's amazingly well written. If you listen to the audiobook, which I fully recommend, the reader is amazing. I did leave a few things out in this. I didn't spoil everything, just most things. So I really hope that you go and read this. Book 2 is out right now. I am planning on reading that. Gonna take a little break first, gonna hit back to a couple romance novels first, and then I will get into book 2 because I am so excited. I cannot wait to see what happens with Tao and some greater world mysteries that are going on, because I feel like the Hedeni are our beginning villain. These are our small potato villains that something much worse is coming. So Rage of Dragons, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. If you love high fantasy, please give this book a listen to. It is amazing. But hey, that's just my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's totally cool. And leave your comments down below if you'd like to see me take a crack at something in particular in the future.